This is my town.
Today, we have a very solid guy, I'm going to say. He won't speak to you when you're at a chamber luncheon because he's over there hobnobbing with everybody that's important. Daniel Seguin with the City of Taylor, the communications director, is part of our Taylor Roundup.
Well, you know, Steve, I said hi to everyone else.
Except me.
I just missed you on the way past because you're always talking to people.
Well,
you know, you're
hey,
always gabbing with someone.
I was at the executive table with Keith Hagler, Paige Morris, Trey and Sarah, and those that shall remain nameless. We were in the back corner back there. We were all Baptist because it was at the Baptist church.
Right.
That's where it was. So we were back there, you know.
Well, you know, I was in the front row.
I know, because you're up there. Everybody needs to see you. And that,
we ought to be able to stare down the county commissioner. You know, give him a hard time.
Hey,
up there.
don't Rusty and I, Russ, excuse me, excuse me again, Commissioner Russ Bowles, Precinct 4, and I go way back. We have a long history together, and I am so proud of what Russ did in his presentation that he gave. I thought it was insightful because we got in here 3-4 weeks ago, and he started going off on MUDs, municipal utility districts, and I thought he was going to come unglued. His veins were bulging out of his, forehead, and he was sweating, and he worked up to a lather. But yesterday I thought he did a great job, and I thought he did a great job explaining water.
Yeah, absolutely. People. You know what I'm most excited about is I learned Russ and I have something in common the other day. We were talking.
You both have famous siblings?
Well, we both went to Tyler Junior College of all places in Northeast Texas.
Right.
And we were sharing stories, and we both learned we each still have a T-shirt, and he's going to send me a picture of his TJC T-shirt he's got hanging up somewhere, and it's fun to meet random folks that you went to school with.
You know, Precinct 4 has a history of good people representing him. Frankie Lemmer, Ron Morrison, and Russ that I am aware of. And so he's doing a good job. And Kelly Hernandez, his chief of staff over there, I think she's wonderful folks. She's our president of the Wilco Fair and Rodeo. She oversees that event for us volunteers, and she does a great job.
Absolutely. It was a great event.
You have a guest today who's awful quiet over there with his badge on and his official Taylor, Texas shirt. Nobody's given me an official Taylor, Texas shirt. You think I could get one of those?
Well, what would you like to be our downtown and tourism director or something?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
you'd like to apply for a job?
Is that job still open?
It is.
I talked to the mayor was on yesterday in Rush for DJ, and you're still looking for a Main Street director too, aren't you?
Well, that position's actually replaced Main Street, so we've expanded the position to be downtown and tourism director.
Well, I'm a big fan of that. Promoting downtowns of any downtown. I just love walking around down here and waving at people and all that. Every once in a while I get a 5-finger wave versus normally just the one.
Oh, the middle finger wave that you normally get?
I just call it the 1-finger wave. 1-finger wave. Well, introduce your guest.
Yeah, well, today I have Daniel Cisneros. He's the code enforcement officer, one of our code enforcement officers for the city. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Is this your first time on the radio?
First time on the radio.
Hey, but he's got a radio voice. So he does. If you get a little heat on that job, a little too much, come up here, son. I can put you on the radio. Make you regular.
Well, I thought Daniel would be a wonderful addition to the show. A lot of folks don't fully understand how code enforcement works, right? Mm-hmm. They're frustrated. Maybe they're frustrated because their neighbors have junk in their yard, or they won't cut their grass, or they're just causing the whole neighborhood to kind of go downhill a little bit. And they reported, and they reported, and they reported, and they reported, and it feels like nothing ever happens. And so what I wanted to do is bring Daniel on to share with us kind of what does the actual process look like, right? For the average person, they report it and forget about it or think about it every day and wonder what's going on. But what does it look like internally? Why does it feel like it takes forever? That kind of thing.
Well, it's growing community, and there's a lot with growth comes challenges. I don't want to say issues, challenges. And, you've got to have somebody out there to toe the line because, it's not up to law enforcement,
right?
To go out and inspect if the trash cans are all kicked out in the alley. We've had challenges here with this alley back here. Jay, one morning, watched a gentleman back up his van to this building, throw a tie rope around an old breaker box, and pull it off the building and just take off with it. And I assume he was thinking there was some copper in that box. Boy, was he disappointed when he got it back. So you got to work to keep that. I mean, there used to be a thing in Texas called Beautiful City designation. It was a clean, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like you were one of Texas' beautiful clean cities. It was like
we've got one called Scenic City.
Yeah, probably is what
similar.
It is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it has to do with, beautification, certain number of trees, and how well you keep up your community, your parks, etc.
Well, I want to know from a code, and what's a typical day look like for you?
Well, it depends. I mean, so typically we have a queue of cases that we have to go out and inspect. So just to kind of give a bigger picture frame of reference, so kind of like how Daniel mentioned, anytime somebody has a complaint, they can go online to the city website and file their complaint there.
What kind of complaint?
Like you said, trash and debris. The typical ones are usually going to be high grass, trash and debris, junk vehicles, and especially this time of year, grass is like grass and overgrown, low-hanging trees is the main thing. And we haven't even hit summer yet, right?
Sure.
When everybody's
We've
home.
had a nice, so far, knock on wood, it's been a little wet,
Yeah. So once summer hits, everybody's usually home. When everyone's home,
everybody sees what they don't normally see.
Exactly. And so that's where then we get, and flooded with complaints. And so there's only two of us. And so usually we'll try to address them from a more safety perspective or more safety immediate need to kind of a lesser one. And so one of the things Daniel mentioned is sometimes it does feel like it may take long. Code enforcement, we're very methodical in the way that we send out all of our notifications have to be sent out by snail mail, right? So that takes time. That's if it doesn't get lost somehow along the way.
Is it certified mail or is it
not initially? Not initially. So
it's just a nice little letter.
Yeah, it's just a one pager, typically, very simple with a photo of a violation. A tall grass in this case, and so in that we'll say comply by within 10 to 14 days. We'll give a date, and then we prefer voluntary compliance as opposed to taking it the other way. And so usually, as long as if they communicate with us, need extra time, not a problem. We're okay with that as long as there's that open communication. Once that deadline comes and goes, if we haven't heard any communication, if the violation is still there, then a warning will get sent out with another deadline, right? So that's where the one who filed or submitted the complaint can feel like nothing's being done. But something is being done on the back end.
Can I give you a thought on that? A lot of times code enforcement deals with elderly, folks that cannot physically go out and mow their grass on a regular basis, or they're for whatever reason, they've got a challenge they're having challenges getting it done. Would it make sense for the city to have a list of people that will mow and take care of that problem for them when you send that letter out? If you can't get this done, here's some suggestions for you of people that we know that do this kind of work. Here's their phone numbers. They're local. They're on our list of approved people.
So typically, no. So typically, whenever I have been asked that, I will say Chamber of Commerce may have a list of people, companies. And the reason is because we, as a city, we cannot recommend somebody.
No, but you're not recommending. You're just providing a list of You're providing information, which is, these lawn service, especially kids, right? That's a great summer job for a kid to go out and mow grass with an old Murray push behind lawnmower, right? And make a little extra money for the summer. And the chamber, thank you for, we appreciate anybody promoting chamber membership, right, Daniel? Mm-hmm. Those people probably can't necessarily afford to join the chamber in that capacity. And we just, but somewhere, somehow, you ought to be able to register your little Larry's lawn mowing and provide that information, because you're not endorsing them. You're giving them examples of people they can call. And I bet it wouldn't feel as harsh, if that makes sense, to folks, because, little Miss Rodacher, who's been in her house for 80 years and she's in her 90s, she can't go out there in the heat and mow that grass. And while it needs to be mowed, it's a health hazard, right? Giving her some options when she may not know anybody. So think about that. This is a little friendly advice from your local radio station that cares, 98.5 KRXT.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we definitely come across people of all ages. So we've come across elderly, of course, and up to this point, for the most part, we've never had any issue with that, because usually they'll let their grandkids or their children, they'll let somebody know. But that's not a bad idea,
We're full of kind of not bad ideas.
Ideas, right?
Right.
But that's typically the process. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The majority of the complaints that do come in are anonymously.
Yes, because Daniel's ratting out his neighbor.
Hey,
whoa. Sorry.
Hey, which Daniel?
Hey. Daniel, fill in the blank. Why'd you jump so? I didn't use your last name. Wow, a little guilty conscience there. Okay.
I just, since you threw that out there, I got to say, to my neighbors up in the Grove, I have never one single time called code enforcement or the HOA on you. I just had to put that out there. And disclaimer.
Look, when your name is Seguin and you've got the history that your family, I believe that. I believe you've never done that to your neighbors. Okay, here's the question that somebody's going to ask me. Why didn't you ask him this question? What's the one call you got that was the most interesting, bizarre, weird, strange?
Well, so I've got a couple, but the one that comes off the top of my head is a complaint I got last year.
Okay.
This complaint, they had boxes in the front of their home. And so I went and spoke to the property owner and told, the property owner, having boxes in the front of your door is a safety hazard, because if something happens, police or fire need to get in, you're blocking the main entrance. Obviously, they can go through windows, but typically it's the front door. And so I had a feeling that there was more to the story than just boxes in front. And so she was an older lady and had been communicating with me. After about a month or two of extending the deadlines for her, and she had made some progress, which as long as we're seeing progress, we can extend the deadline as well. And then she just kind of stopped communicating. I would call, text, nothing. And then one day I just drove by and she happened to be there. Spoke to her again, same thing. And okay, not a problem. We'll extend the deadline. I hear you. And so this probably went out for, I want to say maybe 9 months. And I get a call one day because I couldn't get a hold of her. And I said, okay, now she's avoiding me. So unfortunately, and she's a sweet, sweet lady. Unfortunately, we're going to have to write a ticket.
Okay.
Right. And so one day I get a call and it's from the daughter, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm seeing all this mail. I want to let you know my mom passed away.
Oh.
So because I had spoken with her and I thought she was sweet and, was trying to help her out, you know, essentially, she's like, but we're going to clean it up. My mom was a hoarder, and you know, unfortunately, this happened.
A lot of wives we consider hoarders because they seem to get these boxes with a big smiley face on them, with an arrow. You know, there's a company that begins with an A that is so convenient for you to buy now. You know, and then boxes start rolling in, and before you know it, you got a whole porch full of Amazon.
Well, Steve, do you not like it that it's your birthday every day when you come home and there's a package on the front porch?
No,
is that what you're saying?
No, I really don't. I really don't. I look at that and thought, really? You really need another Twizzler, you know, gadget kind of thing? It's never ends. So thank you, Jeff Bezos, for making it easy to deplete your paycheck just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she, the daughter eventually cleaned it up. Yeah, knocked it out, and then, you know, the case was dismissed. So that's just one of many.
Do you work pretty closely, I would imagine, with like animal control? Because
not particularly.
No.
No. So interestingly enough, I actually don't. The cases that we get, at least the ones that I've gotten, don't really have an animal issue. So up to this point, no, I haven't really animal control.
Daniel and I both have that same look of astonishment because we both thought, well, I bet you there's something to that.
Well, yeah, you'd think, you know, if someone's being neglectful around the house on the outside, there might be a possibility they're neglectful with animals and things. So, you know, you might. It's not a stretch to make that logical connection.
That needs to be our next guest, too, by the way, because we're coming up on summer. We need to get animal control to come in here and talk about that. And I know the shelter's always needing food, right?
Absolutely.
Something we could do for that, too. So Taylor Roundup with Daniel Seguin, the communications director for the city of Taylor, and his guest with code enforcement. And we were asking off the air, how many violations or code enforcement actions do you have a year?
So I know last year, 2024, I alone was probably close to 500. So in the 400 to 500 range of cases that we had. And I think as a department, mind you, there's really only two of us. It is probably closer to 700-800.
Wow.
And so to go to the other thing of why sometimes it may feel like it takes a bit from the one who filed the complaint.
That's a lot of work for two folks, Daniel.
It is a lot of work for two people. And if you think about, you know, if you're just looking at daily basis, right, that's more than 2 cases a day. You're having to go to the property, take pictures, write a report, write a letter, mail the letter, you know, and then there's the follow-up of each and every single one of those cases on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
All right, so here's a little. I'm going to ask an inside baseball question. When do you go out? When do you start looking? What time are you on the road looking around? And how does so people can? I'm going to give them a little head start, right? Tell us how your day works, and so that we can maybe. It's kind of like people that flash their lights. When there's a radar, they're running radar up ahead of you, and some good old boys from Texas will flash their high beams at you like, hey, slow down. There's a Kojak with a Kodak up the road. And for those of you that don't know CB language, shame on you. So tell us how we can avoid seeing you.
Maintain your property, right?
Okay.
So I always like to say, we are the code enforcement is the HOA for the city. Right.
Oh, I wouldn't have said it like that. Oh,
it's
no.
So one way is, so I usually like to go in the morning, especially with the heat. You know, I don't really feel like being out in 100+ degree heat, but I will, you know, because I got to do what I got to do. But typically in the mornings after 10, between 10 and 12 is usually when I like to go out.
Okay.
But the biggest thing to avoid seeing code enforcement is just
take care of your business.
Take care of your yard.
Be nice to your neighbors.
Be nice to your neighbors. You know, if you have a party, maybe offer. And you don't have to invite them, but maybe give them something to eat. You know, when it comes
whoa, you just say you know, drop by and invite you in for a meal?
No, your neighbors.
Oh, your
neighbors.
neighbors.
No.
Because your neighbors are the ones that are usually reporting you.
Yeah,
and so if you're nice to your neighbors.
Be nice to your dogs and teach my children to play. That was a country song.
Wait, you forgot a little bit of that country song.
I know, but we're moving on. Okay, code enforcement. You like I have a neighborhood lemonade stand. Do they still do those things? Do kids still do lemonade stands anymore?
Probably. I'm pretty sure they do.
Does that fall under your purview? A lemonade stand? I just don't want to get little Mary Jane Smith busted for selling Kool-Aid out on the corner.
Operating without a
Kool-Aid
business license, right?
Right.
I mean, it's so. That's kind of one of those areas where it's not very straightforward. But you bring up a really good point: work from home occupations.
Oh,
right.
Look at that.
So as long as you can work from home, whatever it may be, but it cannot extend beyond the structure of the home. Okay. So basically, if it's within public view, then it's a violation.
All right, because Jay Davis and I spend so much time up here, we might as well call this home, right? Nobody laughed at that, Jay. I thought that would be funnier.
Can you have customers come into your house? Like if you're cutting hair out of your garage, is that okay?
You can't do that. That's a health code violation for the state.
Yeah, then you're going into other state departments.
That's a health
okay, I'm repairing lawnmowers in my garage. How about that?
Ain't got no gas in it.
I don't.
I've been waiting years to say that line on the radio, and I just did, didn't I?
We don't, as far as City of Taylor goes, ordinance-wise, we don't have where it states, you can have only X amount of people go to your house.
Like you're a tax prep place, right? Or your CPA and all that, and you work out of your house. You got a home office.
Yeah,
that's not a code violation, is it?
No, I mean you can work from home.
Sure.
Yeah, again, you can have cut hair from home or what
and
have you.
I doubt very seriously that you're going to walk up to some little Susie Jane Smith and say your lemonade stand has got to go. No, we're not going to do that.
We have a little humanity and some common. That's the thing.
That's common sense.
Yeah.
What's missing sometimes when we think about the government, right? We think about this box, this gray box, this entity that's going to come and demand X, Y, or Z. But we're all just people, right? And we have some
doing
humanity,
the best that
right?
we can.
We take what we've been given in the law to apply the law and apply that with some humanity and care and neighborly love. That it's not necessarily going to be the letter every time, but the spirit of what the law is trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So Susie Q with lemonade stand,
and not everybody with government is out to get you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I wanted to support what he said, right? Because when you mentioned the lemonade stand, that's why I kind of hesitated, because in my head I'm like, well, I mean, let's be reasonable, right? And that's usually how I always like to approach every case that I go up to. I don't like to make any assumptions off the bat, but I like to go prepared as well. So if there's a lemonade stand, I'll go talk to them. If they say, oh, it's just a day, not a problem. I'll swing by tomorrow. I don't see them. Case closed.
Well, the thing, look, code enforcement and what you do, especially during the summer months, right? What's the number one thing that we have an issue with in Texas in the summer with water, standing water, and tall grass?
Mosquitoes.
All right? So by keeping your property cleaned up and no standing water, we eliminate or do our best to eliminate, the mosquito issue that we have, because mosquitoes carry some bad stuff. They carry encephalitis, for one. I know I contracted it when I was 5 years old and had 2 spinal taps and should be dead because of a mosquito bite, contracted encephalitis. I could tell you don't want to go through that. And by keeping your neighborhood clean, you're showing a little pride.
Yeah.
You are.
And there's nothing wrong with, and if anything I know about a city, if you go to Rockdale and you talk about the Tigers, or you go right here or talk about Thrall, Jay Davis, about the Tigers and the Bulldogs from Thorndale and the Taylor Ducks, there is a pride among small town Texas that is you don't find in Austin.
There is, and we need to take care of our town, right? It's not just about, complaining about your neighbors having junk in their yard, right? It's about having pride in your community, having pride in your environment, and in the space, our God-given spaces that we have around us. So I have one last question for Daniel.
This is the last question.
If I've got Grandpa's first car sitting in my front yard.
Now, I want to know why you just started rednecking.
Whoa. Let's just hear about Grandpa's.
I heard an accent
Grandpa's.
Did you hear the articulation he went from Daniel Seguin, the professional communications director, to, hey, now I got no car over here in the driveway.
I got Grandpa's first car, right?
Yeah. You're making fun of me, I think is what he's doing, Jay.
What do I do? Is that allowed if it's not running? Because I've got dreams of getting it working.
Mm-hmm. Not running.
I've got dreams of getting it working.
Yeah.
What should I do?
So
it's in the driveway, not parked on the curb. Right.
It's in the driveway.
Right.
It's on 4 blocks. Because you're starting to work on it, and you've got all 4 tires and wheels off.
Yeah.
So then that would most likely fall under junk vehicle. And I've gotten people that have gotten offended because I called their vehicles junk because they had that sentimental value to it, right? Unfortunately, I have to give it a designation, abandoned or junk. So if it's on blocks, it's not running, it's junk vehicle, and it needs to be removed from public view.
Okay.
Put it in the garage. If you don't have room in the
Can it just be covered? What
so
can we
so I've gotten that question before.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And so it's because I know what's underneath, it's too late at that point.
Okay.
What if you don't know what's underneath? Doesn't matter.
If it's already covered? So if it's already covered, and let's just say somebody complained, if by the definition of junk vehicle, it cannot be dismantled. So if I pull up and if it's covered and I see that the tires are missing and it's on blocks, then I have to address it through that direction.
Okay.
However, if the tires are inflated, they have to be inflated first and foremost. And if the vehicle is covered, I can't prove that it's a junk or abandoned vehicle, right?
Okay.
Because it's by the definition of what a junk vehicle.
First of all, I built a 54 truck from the frame off in my garage in Georgetown, Texas. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little sensitive about this. Cover it up, just know that you don't want an oil running down the driveway into the streets or transmission fluid. I've had that happen. Take care of your business. That's the best thing we can say, right? And thank you for coming in. That was a great ending question.
Yeah, really good question.
Because look, pride, once a duck, always a duck. Pride in the community, pride in what we do, and that's it. You don't do an easy job. Think about, though, adding that mowing service idea there. People can go register their place.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to take a quick little break, and we'll be right back. Daniel and I are going to talk about walking the streets of Taylor. Daniel, I'll say one thing about your show that we do here today's Tuesday, isn't it? Man, after yesterday, I'm just worn out. You bring interesting guests.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate that because I think a lot of people have questions we're trying to answer.
Trying to answer good questions, but also to help folks realize that we're just normal people here at the city. We're just normal people trying to do a job, help the community.
Do the best for the community that you can.
Do the best that we can.
I noticed your East Texas accent immediately went away after we stopped talking about cars.
It oozes out sometimes when I'm talking about certain topics.
That's another great word you don't get to use, ooze.
It oozes out.
Definitely.
My wife makes fun of me. She's probably listening right now and heard
Is she
that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. She texted me a second ago. I won't tell you what she said about my voice, but she thought it was lovely.
Really? It made you feel good?
Oh, yeah. Made me feel wonderful. But, she makes fun of me because my voice changes depending on who I'm talking to sometimes or the topic we're talking about. It's very odd. And
so that explains a lot when you and I are having a conversation because I I have a West East Texas accent. I've spent a lot of time in both sections, so I have the worst Texas drawl known to man, right? How y'all doing today? All right, well, we're fitting to talk about what we did this weekend in Taylor. Tell us about the walk.
Well, we have an awesome new program we've talked about before called Taylor on Foot, and this last weekend was the first day where we actually went out on foot. So we had 26 folks from the city, from the school district, and from the Greater Taylor Foundation. We all got together.
Well, you had, and don't forget I saw Superintendent Garcia.
Yes.
She was out walking.
She was.
Everybody looked like they were having a good time.
We were having a great time because here's what's crazy. Imagine this. Everyone in person is different than they are on social media.
You're kidding.
No joke.
Keyboard cowboys and all that?
Keyboard cowboys are so much different than your folks who are average, that you're knocking on their doors, living in our community, going to work, taking care of their family, buying groceries. They're different people.
Did you shock anybody when you rang the doorbell?
I shocked some dogs, that's for sure.
Oh.
We had lots of barking dogs. But, some folks were pretty surprised, even though we put some door hangers out letting folks know we're coming.
Everybody said, sure you are. Right.
Right. And so, we had some great conversations. A lot of, surprisingly number of non-answered doors and door cameras that told us you're being recorded. But other than that, some amazing
great
conversations.
For law enforcement. You can those ring cameras have caught a lot of people doing a lot of things.
They have indeed. But yeah, so what blew my mind the most is how many people thanked us for what we do and appreciated the efforts of the city.
Isn't that nice to get that feedback as opposed to what people can hide behind a keyboard on social media and say whatever they want to say under a pseudonym, an assumed name or anonymously.
Yes.
That's
different parts of the town are going to be a little different, right? So we were in District 3 this time around. Tends to be considered a district that, has slightly better roads just for no particular reason. They just are. And so we still had some of the usual concerns. Folks are concerned about speeding down their street. Folks are concerned about their potholes.
Did anybody bring up the idea of how to get a pothole fixed real quickly?
They did not come up with that idea.
We'll post that on our social media. No, we won't. We will not.
I saw one after we had that conversation last week.
You went and looked it up, didn't you?
No. It came across my feed, because our phones are listening.
Right.
And someone had brought some potting soil and planted some flowers in their pothole.
In their pothole?
Yes.
Oh, wasn't that nice?
All kinds of unique.
That is cool.
It was beautiful.
People are being
much better version than the one you mentioned.
And remind folks when you say Taylor on Foot, the city is not trying to take your car away and make you take your bicycle. We're not trying to engineer societal engineering. This is just about our elected officials and people from city staff that are they're walking through neighborhoods to visit with neighbors.
That's exactly it. We had code enforcement there. Mitch from our code enforcement department was with us, and he's not looking for code violations. He's looking to have conversations with folks, understand their needs, desires, and that's the same with all of us.
He's looking to hear the snitches rat out their neighbors.
It's all about. We volunteered our own time, right? Mm-hmm. We came out there on a weekend. We could have been spending with our families, and our goal...
You could have been at the Ansara Chili Cook-Off.
We could have been at the Chili Cook-Off. We could have been at the COAD interest meeting, but we were out knocking on doors, trying to understand folks' needs, wants, and desires. And so that was our goal. I think we've accomplished that mission. We'll have a report coming out on our social media and our website of here's all of the interactions that we had, here's the feedback we got, and here's what we're going to do about it.
Now, is this a one and done, or when's the next one?
Next one is July 19th.
Yeah, who picked that date?
Who picked that date?
Well,
we're walking quarterly.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
We're going to have it during the heat. It's
really
going to happen.
Y'all all be wearing your shorty shorts?
We might be wearing some shorty shorts. We might have some coordinated T-shirts this time. We'll see. We're going to try.
And you might want to bring just an ice chest on one of those red wagons.
Yeah, that was feedback we got from some of our volunteers.
Yeah, we might want to have
water.
a little water and a little agua there with you, because that was good.
Yeah.
How many homes do you think you visited?
We visited approximately 58 homes. We probably talked to 30 of them.
People?
30 folks. And so next time we realized we are shooting for 2 hours, and we realized we got done pretty quick. So we're going to do more next time. I'm thinking we're going to target 100, and we might even hit a little more.
So how long did it take you to hit 50 homes?
It took us a little under an hour. Some teams got done in 30 minutes because they only talked to 3 people.
They just
some
basically just ran through. Anybody do anything?
They had 10 homes assigned to them, and only 3 answered the door.
Right.
But some of us, we did more than we had initially assigned to ourselves, and some of us, saw 7 of 10. So
here's a little suggestion for you: bring your camera crew with you. You're welcome.
Oh, he was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
And do some one-on-one interviews with folks and show them to promote it.
Oh, sure. Some interviews is a good idea. We just did pictures this time, but that's a great idea. Do some interviews.
Do some interviews, little man on the street kind of stuff, because you're good at that. I follow you on your socials, and I follow what you do, and you're really animated, and you're really engaging, and you're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you. It takes a lot to have energy staring at a camera.
It does? I'm looking at one right now.
Well, when you're having a conversation, but when you're alone and you got a camera, that's the hard part. So, yeah.
Is it? Not for you.
Have you ever done that?
Yes.
It's so hard.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You do it naturally. Don't kid yourself.
No. I ought to send you some of my original videos that I ever made. When I was a kid, I made videos of myself playing video games. Like those gamers today. I had dreams as a little...
You were going to be one of those?
As a tween, I was going to be one of those, and I gave it up pretty quick. But, it was bad. It's real bad. So it takes time, it takes practice, and it's a lot of effort. So
I'll say one thing, just like I told the mayor yesterday, the city's lucky to have someone who buys into the program of complete open government and transparency. All of these candidates talk about transparency and open government and all that kind of thing. But you pretty much, as I've gotten to know you, you practice what you preach.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe it, Steve. It's in my core. It's what drove me to get into this business in the first place.
And if you look, he's got that hair. He's got that hair that kind of looks a little, I don't know, what's the word? Evangelical.
Oh, gosh.
There's a word you don't get to use very often. You got that evangelical hair going on, and you're good for the city of Taylor.
Well, thank you, Steve. I hope that, regardless of everything else that's going on in the world, that we can help to connect residents with their local government, to understand how it works, and to feel like their voice matters and that they can actually be a part of the process.
Well, you do a great job at it. And, folks, that's it.